Hello everyone and welcome to the Knit Witch podcast. My name is Katie and I am the Knit Witch. I am desperately trying to make today's episode a fast episode because it is about 18 degrees here in Rhode Island and I really just want to go back to the fire, get all snuggled up and cozy, have another cup of coffee, do some knitting. So we're going to try and power through this episode, but I do have a lot to talk about, so we'll see how well I do. So right off the bat, let's start with finished objects. Now I'm showing you this object first because I might have to put it on since it is absolutely freezing outside. These are the fingerless mitts I made for my boyfriend, and you can see that I mirrored the ribbing on the hand. So there is a left glove and a right glove. And I talked about this last time, but I just have this little bit of a garter bump on the thumb just to kind of prevent the rolling of the stockinette, and for whatever reason I did not want to do ribbing on the thumb. So I have this little garter bump. I just totally improvised the pattern. This is a DK weight 100% Peruvian Highland wool that I dyed myself. He asked for something with contrast was his only specification. So I did some light blue, and some dark blue with some little gray splotches in there. Super happy with how these turned out, and they fit perfectly. I just caught a view of myself in the viewfinder, realized I did not mention what I am wearing. This is my longest surviving knitted garment. And I say that because I have a tendency to knit garments, never wear them, and then frock them years later. So this is a cardigan. I think it's called the Park Ave cardigan that I knit back in 2018. So that's over 5 years ago. I think it was November of 2018. And it sucks. This garment, I will give it credit, this is the garment that got me good at purling because it was my first ever cardigan, and so I had to knit back and forth over a long row in stockinette stitch, so that's one row of knitting and then one row of purling. So this is the garment that got me really good at purling, but I was such a novice garment maker that I didn't count any rows. So I'm saying this because the sleeves are of different lengths, and I think the cuffs are of different lengths as well. It's super pilly because I just wear it around the house. So yeah, you can see all of the pills on there. This is knit in Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes, worsted weight, non-superwash, in the color Amber Heather. Wow, can't believe I remembered that. Amber Heather, size, no idea what size needle I knit this on. But yeah, I had extra yarn, so I decided I wanted to do this button band as I drag myself closer to the camera for you. I had extra yarn, so I put on this button band, but it's too tight, and so it pulls on my neck, and I didn't use a stretchy bind off. I just did a regular bind off. I don't know the word for it. So I just did a regular bind off, which is way too tight, so the button band shrank up and it pulls on my neck. Sleeves are two different lengths, but it is virgin wool, so that's not the right word. It is an untreated wool, so it's definitely super warm, which is why I'm wearing it, because it is freezing. So first finished object, and also a taste of what I'm wearing. Second finished object are these socks that I was knitting for my sister. Gotta pull them out of my bag, so it's a little crinkly, sorry. These are the socks that I knit for my sister. And again, I dyed this yarn myself. I was kind of going for a camo-ish vibe, which I don't think I succeeded on, but I definitely made a green yarn. So it's green, and it's got some little like micro stripes of black. This is a broken rib sock that I just kind of improvised the pattern, and I'm actually writing the like official pattern. I have 3 different sizes all written out, and I'll probably do a call for test knitters later this week or next week. So the broken rib just looks like this. It has 2 pearls in the middle instead of just 1. So this is the leg. It's really hard to show a ribbed sock on camera, so I'm sorry. But I continued the double pearl into the cuff, and then this is the back of it. Let me get that centered on my hand, but this is the back of it. And it's, again, got that pearl variation in the cuff. And toe up, heel flap and gusset for my sister. Almost camo. Green stripey. What else is there to say, really? I knit these on a US 0, which is a 2mm needle, and it's because I don't really care for this yarn. If I have time, I'll explain it at the very end. This is just a yarn base that I ordered in bulk, was trying it out. I don't like it particularly much. It's a 75-25, which, you know, should just be impossible to F up when you're making a yarn. I just don't like this one. It's too thin. I mean, it's fine. It's just too thin. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I just don't like it. So I bought it in bulk, but I don't like it enough to sell it. So I'm using it as like my yarn mop when I'm dyeing and stuff. That's my like go-to, like wipe my dye covered hands on. So I have a bunch of skeins that are just like splattered with color in this type of yarn. I'm not sure what else there is to say about it. It's so cold that my brain isn't working properly, so please forgive me. Those are my 2 finished objects. Cut the mittens for my boyfriend and the socks for my sister. And I'm just arranging them on my legs to keep me nice and warm. It's not working very well. Okay, now we move on to works in progress. It will not surprise you that the first work in progress is my Cloudwatching sweater, which I have worked on. It may not look like it, but I have worked on it. Let me just show it to you. Let me lean back so you can see most of it. It's so pretty, so soft. I usually show you the armpit, don't I? If I can frickin' get there. So, oh yeah, you can totally tell I worked on this, right? Oh my god, I'm freezing. So last week I had like 4.5 inches. This week, I don't know. I have a lot of inches. Is that 7? I do have a measuring tape, but is it worth it to show you? Like, you guys, you can see, you have eyes, right? 7, maybe 8 inches on there. So definitely have made progress. I've been trying to do like 4 rows a day on it, which takes me about 15 minutes. I'm just trying to, it's brioche, so it's a commitment. But it's gonna be so cool. And I don't know. I'm kind of like hoping that I will have this done by Valentine's Day. Let me put my hands in here to warm them up. I'm kind of hoping that I'll have this done by Valentine's Day because I just have this like image that it's gonna be so cute to wear with some light wash jeans. I feel like it's gonna be adorable. I don't know what I'm doing for Valentine's Day, if anything. I just feel like, you know, this beautiful light pink is kind of, you know, it's multi-holiday. I dyed it originally for Christmas because it's got those red and green speckles in there, if you can see those. So it's got those red and green speckles that I originally dyed for Christmas, but I'm like, it could totally be Valentine's Day too with this light pink. So it's definitely going to be cropped-ish because I have a feeling I'm gonna run out of yarn. I have 5 skeins of like a DK weight yarn, and and they're all in tiny little balls because they came from a frog sweater. Whole other story. So I'm assuming that it's going to be cropped with like 3/4 length sleeves maybe, or like, I have no idea. We're just gonna pray. We're gonna cross our fingers and pray that the sweater, it'll fit. I'm getting tripped up over my words. Like it's plenty wide enough. Like it's gonna fit and it's gonna have ease. Like I'm just concerned about how long I'm gonna be able to make the sleeves. So I may accidentally end up with a half sleeve sweater, but we'll see. So that is whip number 1. Let's move on to another thing that you have seen before, and this is my stomach is grumbling. This is my Mussel Faker hat, which I so lovingly call. I definitely have progress on this. You see how much I did? My gosh, it's like this could be a hat at this point. So this yarn is Don't Forget Your Shades by Old Rusted Chair. I don't think that they dye this colorway anymore, but it's just this these gorgeous neons. Neons and blue, some black speckles, some red speckles. I still have like a massive amount of the ball of yarn. I haven't weighed it yet, but it's gonna be the same construction as a mussel burrow, where I just knit a really long tube and then shove it inside itself. So really, I'm just gonna go until I have like 20 grams left and then do some decreases and then call it done. Last time I think I had just finished my increases, so I've knit a considerable amount. And like I said, this is kind of just like my car ride knitting or my movie knitting or my in the dark knitting, because it's all plain knitting. And the reason why I call it my Mussel Faker, because again, same construction as a mussel burrow, it just has spiralized crown increases, which is my preferred method of crown increase. And the mussel burrow has like a box-shaped crown with, I always do this. It's got this shape on the crown and I don't like it. So I'm making up my own, which I usually do when I am following a pattern. I'm like, I wouldn't do it like that. I would do it this way, and then I do it that way, even when I'm following a pattern that I paid for. So that's just who I am. Break the rules constantly. Let us move on once more. Check my notes. Oh my goodness. This is yarn that I dyed myself, and I showed you last week. I showed it to you in the skein, and I was like, I'm gonna make some socks for myself with this, because this is another new yarn base I'm trying out, and it is the softest sock yarn on the planet. It's an 80/20 non-superwash merino, and it's an extra fine. I can't remember all of the different levels of fineness, but it's 19.5 or less microns, which is insanely soft. And I was knitting it this morning. Let me show you my progress. Let me pull my needle through so I don't stab the camera. But I was knitting on it this morning and I was like, oh my god, is all yarn this soft? Is this how yarn should be? So these are, again, broken rib socks. Let me show you the back so you can get a better idea of the color. Now, my camera does horribly with the color blue. It just does not pick up the color blue. So please forgive me. This is just a very, very pretty light blue and dark blue dip dyed yarn with some black speckles, and the black broke, and I don't know if you could see it when I held up my little toe, but the black broke into a rusty orange color and a purple color. So it looks really, really cool. And I love this yarn, and I love the way I dyed it, and I'm so happy. And I'm kind of knitting the same pattern as my sister's socks. I mentioned that I was writing out the pattern for multiple sizes. I'm trying out the small size in the pattern because I have very narrow feet. So the small size is 56 stitches, which is what I normally do for my own socks, and then the medium is 64 and the large is 72. So I have those all written out. I just kind of need to proofread them and then send them to testers. But you guys are getting the first exclusive look at my new sock pattern. Speaking of, I totally glossed over this, but I released a sock pattern last week. It's called A Better Ribbed Sock by me. And if you are familiar with the podcast, you will know that they are the red socks that I knit for my boyfriend. I wrote the pattern for that and released it for free in one size, which is 64 stitches. You can find that by going to Ravelry and searching for A Better Ribbed Sock, or perhaps you've already seen it because I was the number 2 hottest design on Ravelry for about 48 hours after I released the pattern. I was sitting at number 3. I was jumping between number 2 and number 3 for most viewed or most favorited pattern. And my boyfriend was so excited. He made a Ravelry account just to, stalk my pattern and see how it was performing. It was insane. I was so happy. I've never experienced that level of success before. And it's a free sock pattern if you want to download it. But yeah, that was surreal. That was awesome. And I'm chasing that high. I totally get why Andrea Mallory releases a pattern every month, because that feeling that you get when you see people downloading your baby, I'm like, oh my god, I'm doing this forever. It feels so good. So thank you if you saw it, if you downloaded it, if you looked at it, if you were like, oh my god, why does she need to release a pattern for rib socks? You still clicked on it. Thank you. So I think I only have one more work in progress. And I did mention this last time, but I was saying that the mittens that I knit for my boyfriend, I'm gonna have so much yarn left over. They ended up taking 48 grams, so I had 57 grams left because I had 105 or 106 gram ball. So the mittens took 48 grams. I had a bunch of yarn left over, so I was saying it would be so cute if I made myself semi-matching mittens, which I am doing. So all I have is the little cuff. The tiny little itty bitty cuff. I think, 15 rows that I have done. This is the yarn that I dyed. You already saw it knit up into the mittens, but it's just a dark blue and light blue kind of variegated yarn with some black or charcoal gray splotches. Not speckles, splotches. So I am starting a fingerless mitt for me, and then we will match. So that is it, I believe, for the knitting whips. And for spinning, I don't know what it is. I have just kind of lost all of my spinning mojo. So I was mentioning that, let me see. I have the fiber, but it's so deep in my bag that I don't want to dig it out. But I had this purple and blue braid from Paradise Fibers, and I was like, I'm gonna split it in half, spin it, make a 2-ply yarn, make a hat for myself. That was the plan, and I just kept dragging on actually finishing that spin. And so I spun the first 50 grams, I wound it onto my Nitty Knotty, which I will show you right now. Gotta cover my face so it actually focuses on the yarn. Yeah, so you can see that it's just this super pretty purple and blue and teal. There's some pink in there. I did not count the yardage when I wound it onto the Nitty Knotty. I'm assuming it's around 150. but I kept trying to count and I would get to like 60 or 70 and I'd be like, oh my god, screw this. I'm so bored. I don't want to count this anymore. So I'm assuming it's about 150 yards, which is plenty enough for a hat. So this is 50 grams and my spindle is empty, but I'm gonna have to spin the other 50 grams and then apply it together. But I've just lost all my spinning mojo. I think it's because now that my boyfriend knits with me, I'm kind of just like, why would I spin when I could sit on the couch with him and we could knit together? So kind of like all my spinning time has gone to other projects like dyeing yarn or working on the podcast editing or just, you know, sitting on the couch with my boyfriend and knitting. So that is it for my works in progress. Let me see. So like I mentioned, I have been dyeing a lot of yarn. I'm actually trying out this new yarn base, which again, my camera does not do well with blue, so I sincerely apologize. There is green, so don't be like, oh, it's Katie's camera again. There is green. This is going to be socks for my boyfriend. It is just a dark blue and light blue variegated colorway. It's gonna end up knitting up with some cool little like micro stripes. I'm really excited for this. Again, a new yarn base, and again, this is going to be a super fine or extra fine. I'm not too sure. I think it's 21 microns, so maybe it's just fine. But 80/20 2-ply this time for my boyfriend. So I'm going to be winding this and casting on those socks today. And I also ordered, I dropped it, but I also ordered some 9-inch circular needles for knitting socks because I've never knit socks on 9-inch circulars, because I always think to myself, I'm like, well, my foot isn't 9 inches, like I have a very narrow foot, so I'm like, there's no way that I could fit my sock circumference on a 9-inch circular. It would just be like, it would be too small and then it wouldn't work. But now that I have multiple other people to knit socks for who have larger or wider feet than I do, I'm like, oh, it's totally worth it to get a 9-inch circular because I can knit my socks on magic loop and I can knit their socks on a 9-inch circular, and I can knit up to 4 socks at a time because I have a size 0 for magic loop, 9-inch, and a size 1 for magic loop and 9-inch. So up to 4 socks. Go me. You are probably going to be inundated with sock whips next time I see you. So again, dyed this yarn myself. Let's look at the next yarn that I dyed. This is going to be for me, and I have my 9-inch circular sticking out of it. Okay, so this, oh my gosh, I love this so much. My camera does great with oranges apparently, but if you remember last time I showed that like super light peachy yarn mop, I overdyed it to be this like orange and yellow with red speckles. It's so freaking gorgeous. I love this yarn so much. And this is again the yarn base that I don't like, 75/25 superwash. I just don't like. It's a really thin yarn, so I have to knit on a size 0 with this. But I love this color. So I also have one more yarn mop, again with needles sticking out of it. I have one more yarn mop that I overdyed. I think I mentioned this last time too. It was that like light green color with some rainbow splotches. I went a little crazy on the rainbow speckle train, and I speckled the ever-loving Christ out of this yarn. So it is green with speckles in red, yellow, blue, and black. And it is insanely gorgeous. And again, yarn base that I don't like, so it will become socks for me. That's just, until I use up all of this yarn base that I don't like, you will see a crap load of socks knit on a size 0 for yours truly. So I also, when I was overdying all those, I did do some other yarn dyeing, but none of it really came out the way that I was anticipating. So I'm definitely gonna have to do another dye day where I over dye those. I think I have 4 or 5 skeins that I have to over dye, so that'll either be today or tomorrow. In yarn bases that I like, mind you, the yarn base that I really enjoy is a 70-30 superwash merino nylon. I'm not sure why more people don't sell a 70-30, because in my opinion it almost performs like a non-superwash wool, which is my preference. I love a non-superwash, which is why I'm knitting socks for myself out of this. Love a non-superwash. And the 70-30 merino nylon behaves a lot like a non-superwash. So it makes my heart sing, and it's, you know, convenient for everyone who likes to or prefers to machine wash their knits, because it is superwash. So I have a bunch of yarn in my shop in the 70-30 base, and I also have yarn that will be coming to the shop in the 70-30 base. I will also have this 80-20 coming to the shop, and this one I have to knit with it first. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it enough to sell it, but once I knit with it, then I'll make a decision. So that's all of the dyeing news. Boyfriend knitting is going to be short and sweet today. It is exciting because I taught him how to join a new ball of yarn. So we have this massive ball connected to, oh boy, can I even show it? This super long scarf, and you can see the join. So he did run out of yarn at an edge, and I was like, oh, well, if you want, you can just start knitting with your new ball. And he was like, but how do you do it? Because he's seen me, you know, knit on sweaters and other things where I join in the middle of a round. He's like, well, how do you do it? And I was like, oh, okay, I'll show you that. So I showed him how to join as you go, weave in your ends as you go. He's super loving it. And like I mentioned, he did make a Ravelry account, and I told him, I'm like, I think you're ready to move on to other stitches. And he was like, I think I'm ready too. So hopefully next week, he's been browsing patterns and stuff, but hopefully next week you will see some, I don't want to say improvement because he's doing amazing. I'm so proud of him. But you will see some bonus boyfriend knitting, and my camera's about to die, but you'll see some bonus boyfriend knitting and some other stitch patterns. Let me leave it at that, because I don't want this whole situation to mess itself up. But thank you everyone so much for watching. I will see you very soon in the next episode, and shout out to you guys for your continued support. Thank you so much, and happy making.